So it's never been easier to visualize an idea through the use of AI as a tool to create hyper-realistic images. And yet we're finding as an architecture practice that we're making physical models more than ever. And to be honest, this is a bit of a surprise to us as well. My name's Pete Markos, I'm an architect, I'm the director of Markos Design Workshop, and in this video I'm going to be telling you why I think you should be commissioning your architect to make a physical model for your next project despite all the advances in AI imagery. So I thought I'd actually start by telling you a little bit of a story and a little bit of my background. So when I started my business, I was 25, which is quite young to start, particularly young I'd say for starting an architecture business. And one of the things I found quite quickly was most people didn't take me particularly serious. They didn't think I was going to go ahead and do what I was saying I was going to do, which at the time was to build the Monocoque Cabin, which was a cabin I'd designed, subsequently looking for sub-consultants, engineers, contractors to work with to build this thing. Now, as I said, no one took me particularly serious. They just thought maybe I was a bit of a time waster, I was a bit of a pipe dream. One of probably the biggest changing point in this narrative, and when I started to see the narrative shift and maybe people to have faith in me, was when I started building physical models. So I thought I'd show you an example. This is a later version. This is one of the latest versions of the cabin, which we have subsequently built and are renting out. What I found was when I built these models, some of the best structural engineers, some of the best contractors started offering help, advice, and then obviously subsequently I employed them. We also later in the process won a grant, and I think a large reason we won the grant was because of the quality of the physical models. It just made the whole thing more believable. Now the grant came from Airbnb, and they were giving 100 people $100,000 each to build their unique holiday let, which was my Monocoque Cabin. Competition was pretty stiff. There was something like 250,000 applicants. So luckily we won. So the reason I'm telling this is because I think it's just a great demonstration of the power and the use of models. These professionals, these structural engineers, these contractors, the only time they find the project compelling and the only time they were able to fully understand the vision, fully see the project and fully believe in it was when we made a physical model. So, you know, this for us, this is one of the key reasons we build models. I think another key reason we make models is models are not something we just press print on and, you know, just say, ta-da, here it is. It's quite an iterative process. So what we usually do as a practice is we make what we call massing models. So they can be quite quick fire. That would be based on relatively quick new ideas which are physically modeled and then printed. Now when they're printed, we will then take Sharpie and marker pen, start to mark out spaces. Two key reasons I think this is important. The first is it allows for a better resolved design. So a design which better meets the client brief, whether that's through where we position windows, how lighting works, etc. The second reason we think this is really important is because physical models allow us to make a space and to then be quite critical and say, you know, have we got too much space here, maybe too little space? You know, what's the floor to ceiling height like? How do the proportions of the structure all work together? So it allows you to physically see the space, and, you know, there's nothing quite like just being able to hold a space and look at it. And that's something I just think that, you know, for all the advances in AI imagery and for all the advances in imagery in general, that's something they just struggle to compete with. I think the next reason we make models and why we're finding clients are commissioning us to make more and more models and demanding that we make more models for their projects is realistically they've actually just become financially more viable. Now you might be able to see, so we've got a 3D printer in the background of this video, and that 3D printer is how we make the vast majority of the model. You know, although there's still a lot of time which has to go into making the model, making the files, etc., it's undoubtedly a lot quicker than what it used to be. What it used to be was somebody sitting there physically making. Now, if you think that model which I just showed you, or some of the other models that we've made as a practice, it's very difficult to make those physically by hand. But if we're able to 3D print it, the whole process is a lot quicker. Now, why that matters, I think, for clients, is it just means that it's financially more affordable, and it's more affordable to also commission a number of models so that they can be used as part of the design process. I think the next reason for us that we make models is really a lot of the forms we work on, and a lot of the projects and are quite complicated. So they're not just, it's not just a single story box extension to the back of the house. In those sorts of instances, I think models might be maybe not entirely necessary. It obviously depends on the project, but what we find is a lot of our projects, because of how they're complying with the National Planning Policy Framework, etc., they're quite complicated 3D structures, and it can often be quite difficult for clients to visualize it. And if I'm honest, quite difficult for even us to visualize it. And it's only when we produce the models that we get a better sense of how the space looks and how it works. So yeah, I thought that'd be really useful just as a little bit of a rundown. I've also put a link in the description to one of our guides, which is titled How to Unlock Your Land. And the reason is we get a lot of client inquiries and a lot of projects about difficult to unlock planning land, and questions around building in the green belt, etc. So it's totally free. It's just a guide. It's in the description, and it's a free PDF, so please feel free to download it and use it, and hopefully see you in the next conversation as well.